The Marvels. The not-so-anticipated movie finally premiered this fall, and while the world was expecting the movie to be a complete disaster, the producers of the show made quite sure not to dash any expectations. The movie has a 61% Rotten Tomatoes score and is competing with The Flash's title of the biggest flop of the year. If someone told me this day would come from Marvel Studios, of all studios, I'd give a long, hard laugh. But as it stands, I still laugh cause it's just that funny. That said, the producers and actors can blame the sore failure of the film on things like inadequate marketing and writer strike restrictions. However, everyone knew the film was coming, most people just didn't care. Now, while the movie was projected to be an absolute bomb, it doesn't just automatically dash any hope the movie has. And that's an argument that a lot of people bring up. If the whole world wanted the film to fail in the first place, well, why wouldn't it? I can also hear people saying it's just mob behavior that's strategically targeted at the film because of its mostly female cast, even though the MCU is largely a male audience. Don't argue with me, it's just facts, I can tell from my channel. And although these claims may have some merit to them, however little they may be, or non-existent, it just serves as quite frankly a stupid excuse for a bad movie doing, well, bad. I watched the movie, and boy, do I have a lot to say, especially on why it's so dumb. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video and subscribe as you would be helping this channel a whole lot. Like you literally have no idea. So without further ado, strap in and let's get into it. The first sin of dumbness this movie committed would have to be the characters. I have not seen characters so boring since Close on Netflix. I reckon it has a lot to do with the script, which by the way was awful as well. But the acting too just left a lot to be desired. A major part of why this movie was so boring was because it was really hard to feel any depth from the actors. Miss Marvel and Monica Rambeau were okay, I guess. The real shocker comes from Captain Marvel herself. Even though it was basically mostly horror movie, her performance in this was really bad. I mean, there were several instances where something touching was supposed to be happening, but just because of how she carried it, I felt literally nothing. The worst part of all this is her performance was Oscar-worthy compared to the eye pepper that was the main villain of this film. Nobody, and I repeat nobody, should get to waste 1.5 hours in a movie that the big baddie isn't even big and bad, or at least remotely entertained. A flat piece of paper, one sheet. She's more surface level than even that. Combined with the abominable acting that was forced to fill absolutely zero stakes whenever she appeared on screen. And that is catastrophic when dealing with a superhero movie. Superhero movies thrive off heroes that are interesting, witty, resilient, and the same is even more important for the villain. This also leads back into the script of this movie and just how stupid it was, because if I have not a single doubt in my mind that the heroes can run circles around the villain, why on earth would I be concerned for the heroes? There's an obvious assurance in most movies, especially superhero movies that are PG, that the hero is going to be absolutely fine. However, the job of a good movie is to challenge that deep-rooted notion such that we almost forget that they're going to be fine. The Marvels did not deliver on that front at all. The villain in this movie also lacked nuance, they lacked depth, and for some reason they just screamed, "I'm trying to be evil." And can I just say this, in her quest to seize resources from all over the galaxy, she definitely should have added personality to her shopping list, cause what the heck? And it's just mind-boggling when you consider villains like Thanos, Ultron, even Hela from Ragnarok, which is probably the weaker one characterized out of the three. These villains were villains, and they sure as hell established their presence in their respective movies. Darwin was forgettable, at best. Another thing that almost completely ruined this film was its unbearably excessive and unwarranted humor. As I've said on this channel with my Shazam video and with the one on Blue Beetle, excessive humor does nothing for the story but erase the stakes. And I don't know what the directors at these giant studios are thinking, but they need to realize that if this keeps up, even if we weren't having a superhero fatigue before, it will be well on its way. This movie had an initially slow start, and by slow I don't mean the action, I mean when I started giving a shit about what was going on. It took a while for me to care at all, but after that scene with a very watered down version of Ragnarok, I started getting some feel of how dire things were, but that was quickly erased by this just chunk after chunk of pointless humor. The only other planet they visited after that was Aladna, a planet with 95% water and apparently people who speak by singing. When I heard that, I could almost tell instantly where this was going. I didn't just think they would actually do it. I was wrong. They literally turned Captain Marvel into a Disney princess. Like, there's no better way to incorporate self-parody into your own film. It was so cringe, I literally had to skip the whole scene. And I don't know if this was to pander to a younger audience, but as we already know, history has proved this is a terrible decision, with failures such as Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Anyway, even after the weird dancing and singing, you get this lackluster battle that's meant to determine the fate of the whole world, and it's just unimpressive, I have to admit. This has to be like one of the most, if not the most unimpressive bout of action sequences of any Marvel movie. Anyway, the Kree managed to steal Aladdin's ocean, and we don't even get to see it happen. That was something grand that could have been shown on screen to give the movie a bigger sense of urgency, like, wow, planets and people in them are dying. But we get nothing of the sort. Even earlier on in the movie, when the Kree stole Skrullus's atmosphere, we didn't feel any sense of loss. We didn't see parents scouring to protect their children, mothers being separated from their daughters. None of that emotional weight that goes with, I don't know, your entire planet being destroyed. And it's just dumb. There's no other way to put it. Like, why would they choose to leave out little details like this that give a movie depth? It's almost unbelievable that they did this, but alas, nothing is that surprising in the superhero movie industry anymore. It's just a vibe. And speaking of stakes, you know how I said I somewhat knew the characters would be fine from the start? I lied. I absolutely knew that not a single hair on Carol's head would get hurt. And they delivered on that quite well, which is beyond dumb. Even Superman, with how high and mighty he is, still has weaknesses, and he doesn't just shrug off attacks from his villains like he's engaging in some pillow fight with them. But Carol Danvers, invisible doesn't even come close. She reignited the planet's sun in a heartbeat. Man, nothing is hurting her. I'm guessing that's one of the reasons they incorporated Kamala in this. She's more vulnerable than the other two, so naturally, it added a little bit more tension. However, it didn't quite work since the entanglement of their powers makes it hard for the villain to capture one without coming in contact with the other one. It's just, you know. Another major problem I had with this film was the ending. Okay, Sir Darwin's done with Aladdin's water and is coming for Earth's sun, which is rather terrifying if you think about it. But before that, she goes on to damage the Saber, which is Nick Fury's new home. And I have to give credit to this movie for their creative use of Goose and his offspring. I mean, what better way to up the stakes and cue us in of the impending danger than to have a bunch of alien squid cats eat up a bunch of space people? I mean, it really works because it's neither funny nor horrific in any way, and this went on for like 3 minutes, filling this normally short movie with irrelevant content to pass time. I'm actually impressed. Okay, to be honest, the cats eating the crew members was kind of funny. However, that's not necessarily a good thing, because we're like at literally the climax of the movie, and if we're not getting serious now, when the fuck will we? Anyway, they managed to escape this Saber on one escape pod and conveniently land in an area void of human presence. The Marvels band together and are ready to take on the big baddie in what is the final showdown of the movie. I have to be honest, I never thought even for a second that Darwin stood a chance. I'm even surprised how she held her own for that long. And I think the directors knew this as well, and that's why they decided to make Carl gullible enough to fall for that blatant trick. Although I wouldn't even call it much of a trick in the first place because it was just way too convenient. The whole sequence was just... Anyway, Darwin steals the other bangle, and in an attempt to be the next Marvel, she evaporates into particles. Well, at the very least, we got to see the end of that character. Any longer, and I swear, I would have dropped that movie then and there. I do not care how long my DNF list is. During their battle, they somehow managed to rip a hole in the fabric of space-time. You know, the usuals. To be honest, I don't even know how this happened. I just know that it did. Now, to stop it from getting bigger and from seeping into our reality, they have to combine their powers and send Monica Rambeau, specifically, for some reason, off to close it. And before they even send her off, I already knew she was going to be trapped there. It's just Marvel's staple at this point, trapping people in alternate dimensions to build up some story there. We've seen it so many times. Anyway, Carol takes Monica's advice and reignites Hala's sun, without even breaking a sweat. I have to admit, this has got to be on my top 3 of most anticlimactic climaxes in a movie. this year. I also have to point out that with a budget of over $200 million, this movie feels heavily under budgeted. I mean, the VFX was cool and all, but could they have at least gotten a better fight choreographer for the fight scenes? Cause they weren't just doing it for me. There's also the issue with the planets they showed, 4 in total: Hala, Skrullos, Aladdin, and Earth. All of them felt quite small scale. I don't know, maybe they thought we wouldn't notice, but I sure did. Even Earth, they couldn't be bothered with showing humans on Earth reacting to their own damn sun being sucked away. I mean, all these little details, or they thought were little details that they left out, contributed into making this movie thoroughly unenjoyable for me. Well, this video wouldn't be complete without me talking about what I did enjoy in the film. Cause if I absolutely hated it, I don't think I would have watched it for 1 hour 30 minutes straight. Just saying. I liked the entanglement of their powers. I think the concept was a really fun one, and it's new. I haven't seen any movie do this, at least not in this manner. So yeah, it was fun to watch in that regard, but that's just about it. All this is kind of sad because if you look at it, like really sit down and look at how much Marvel has veered from how they produce movies and just the utter degradation of the quality of the movies and series they produce, you'll be honestly baffled at how much has changed from Phase 4 up until this moment, and now we are witnessing the lowest grossing film in MCU history, right before our very eyes. And all I have to say about this is, if the MCU execs don't retrace their steps, we're gonna be seeing more of these, way more of these. Anyway, what did you think of the Marvel? Do you think it's dumb, or do you think it served its purpose well? Let me know down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, as you'll be helping this channel a whole lot. Like, you literally have no idea. Especially them likes. The likes help a whole lot. Oh, and thanks to all my returning as well as new viewers, I am beyond ecstatic to be graced by your face.